Good morning, Buffalo. You are listening to the Buffalo Podcast. My name is Brian Dudeman. With me, as always, is my lovely co-host, Ari.
Yeah, sorry, dude man, I wasn't listening. Yes, I am Ari Nicole, and I am up. Hey, dude man, are you up?
I am always up and always ready to podcast. Right now, I would love to introduce the guest for this week. Hey, Hope.
Hi, I'm Hope, and I'm up.
What are your titles? What are your hats? What do you do in the Buffalo film community?
Primarily, I am a director, writer, and miscellaneous crew person. I've done assistant directing, mostly, a little bit of special effects, and script supervision.
Very cool. So right now, we're going to go into the first segment of the podcast. This is called Fan Mail. So the way that fan mail works is that you guys, the listeners, send in your questions to our Facebook or our Instagram. We will read it right here on the air. Guess the week will answer. So without further ado, Ari, you want to ask the first question?
Actually, this first question is from me. I remember your Zombie Kids movie from way back when.
Oh my God.
I used to work with Terror Technologies, Greg Hinneman, and the famous Fatty King, and he shared it with me on DVD. Wow. So yes, it is out there, and I just thought it was so cool that someone so young just decided I'm going to make a movie and actually did it and finished it.
Yeah,
Do you have any fun or cool memories to share about that? Like anything that stands out still?
One of my favorite memories, actually, it made me feel like we were actually making a movie. There's a shot towards the end of the movie where the two, I guess the final girl and the boy at the end, they're running down this alley, and my mom was driving a van, and I was in the back of the van with the trunk open, and I was in the back with the camera, and she was driving, and we did like a makeshift dolly shot with me holding the camera, and they were running towards us, and the car was moving, and that really made me feel like we were making a movie. I think that was my favorite memory.
So this is my next question. This is from Brett, 26, Lancaster. So you started so young. What was like that initial kick? What was that thing that made you go, I can do this. I'm young, but I have the bug.
It was probably getting a response from Zombie Kids, like people actually liking it and encouraging me. And then I met Ken Cosentino. He worked with my dad briefly. And he was an independent filmmaker as well. And he read my script, I Dare You to Open Your Eyes, which is a feature I made when I was in high school. And he really mentored me through that process. And obviously not a lot of people ever make a feature. And doing that at such a young age, now I just want to make shorts after making a feature. But I think I got the bug after Zombie Kids, and premiering it at the film festival. And then I just had a lot of encouraging people around me who knew that I could make something again and make it, Zombie Kids and I Dare You to Open Your Eyes have very different energies. And I think I've just grown with my films, and I think that's pretty clear in my work. I got the bug right away.
Okay, this next one is also from me. So what was one of your favorite moments while filming slashers? No spoilers.
I ran around with a squirt gun filled with blood quite a bit on that set. There was, this shot might be in the trailer, so I don't think it's a spoiler. There's one Evil Dead-esque kind of shot where a severed limb is attached to the camera and it's going at someone. And it looks so silly and fun. And I think one of my favorite memories was shooting the montage that shot was in. And I just having to keep refilling my squirt gun with blood. Yeah, that was great.
So Jay in the Brain,
Yes.
was Pinky busy? And did you try to get in touch with his agents?
Yeah, I had my guy reach out to his guy. It didn't work out. He actually threatened to sue if we use the name.
Since you said you'd be at the Amazing Fantasy Fest, what film or films can we look forward to seeing there?
Jane and the Brain is going to be there, along with Slasher Days of Summer. I also did briefly, I don't know how much of it is in the film, but Richard Fish's musical.
7 Kills, 3 Sons, Banana.
I did like a moment of effects in that. So I'm looking forward to seeing that too. Also after Jane and the Brain, it's playing before a feature called Black Eyed Susan, and that movie looks awesome as well. The poster is super cool for that. So yeah, I'm hoping to be there the entire week.
I'm excited for Twice.
Yes, twice. We get to see it once.
Yes. Although I secretly have seen it, so I will be seeing it twice.
This question comes from Scott, 31, and he writes to us from Alconville. So your first project was a zombie thing. Are you still a fan of zombies? And what were you watching at the time? Were you watching like George Romero, or were you watching like Walking Dead? What things were you watching?
I was watching all of the above. I've definitely grown out of zombie movies, with, I think a lot of people also have. There was kind of like a zombie renaissance when The Walking Dead came out. There's also this one indie zombie movie that I was obsessed with. It's called Dance of the Dead. That movie is fantastic. If anyone can find it. It's about just like high schoolers. An apocalypse breaks out during their prom, and it's great. That was a big influence for zombie kids as well, just because I watched that so much. And I was watching like all of the classics as well, George Romero movies. Yeah, I'm more of a fan of the slow moving zombie. And there's just something that's scarier about that. Obviously, ones that run are like terrifying, but there's something just more menacing about ones that don't have to run and will still get you.
And I did like Return of the Living Dead as well.
Yes,
That was its own separate thing, but yeah, that was great.
That's my mom's favorite movie of all time. She has a Tarman tattoo.
My favorite zombies are the Treehouse of Terror Simpsons episode.
Favorite one is
They came to Homer and they knocked on his head, brains, and they went away from him.
I know it.
Those are nice zombies.
Because Homer doesn't have any brains.
Shaun the Dead. Yours.
Oh, that
mine.
one was good too, yeah.
That's just my favorite. Just I
Yeah,
love
Shaun of
comedies.
the Dead's good too. Definitely.
What about you, Hope? Your favorite one?
Oh man. Probably Day of the Dead, because I love Bub. Bub is fantastic.
This one's from me again. Anything you can tell us about future projects you have in mind or in the works?
I will be part of Greg Lamberson's crew for Frenzy Moon, which I'm stoked for that. That's gonna be great. As far as from me, I have a feature written. I don't necessarily know if that's the one that I want to make next, but I am itching to do a feature. Yeah, I wish I had more to talk about, but I'm still very focused on Jane and the Brain.
I can relate to watching horror movies with a parent. My dad and I used to watch Civil Bullet all the time. Gary Busey, one of the Coreys. I don't remember which one, but that got me interested in horror. And he was a huge like creature feature guy. He loved werewolves. He loved vampires. He was just like he was all about creature features. He wasn't really like slasher. So his love of that got me more into horror. as far as, since we talk about Frenzy Moon and werewolves, I think my favorite werewolf movie would probably be An American Werewolf in London, just because like every Halloween I have to watch it. That's my Halloween movie, which I've said like 100 times on this podcast. So people who like watch the episodes know that. Hope, yours favorite werewolf movie?
Mine is Ginger Snaps.
It's good.
That movie is perfect to me.
I forgot about that one. I really liked how, kind of morbid, but yeah, I really liked how the sisters used to do like fake death.
Yes. Yeah, that's
scenes.
like the whole intro to the movie.
Yeah. I kind of thought that was funny, and that was something that I would have loved to do with my sister had she been into any of that. But she wasn't. So, because I was the younger sister and she was the older sister, but she wasn't into any of that. My favorite would actually be, I think it was like a 90s TV show.
I think I know what it is.
Yeah? You want a cue?
All right. So, if I'm wrong, correct me. But you said 90s show, and I'm guessing that it was probably on ABC Family.
I guess I'm not the only psychic in here.
Big Wolf on Campus.
I watched that thing religiously on my little 5-inch black and white TV I grew up with one of these phones too, with one of these turndials. I actually did have one of these when I was a kid.
That was my brother's and I show. We used to watch that all the time. Like, we were obsessed. We loved Myrtle. That was a great show.
Yeah, I always wanted to drive a hearse. But then when I actually looked into it,
Are they like super expensive?
they're really bad on gas mileage because you got to think of how much they have to carry. So it's like 8-cylinder. And
Wow.
states like Pennsylvania don't allow you to own one for personal use. I think in New York you can, but once I figured that it was so bad on gas mileage, and I wanted to use that as my travel car. Like, you take an adventure, you got a bed back there, you just stop over or whatever. Most Walmarts let you park overnight for free. So yeah, like just crawl in the back of the coffin and peaceful sleep and
Probably
nice
cozy
and
back there.
quiet. Yeah, temperature controlled and all that. But if it's so expensive for gas, maybe when they come out with an electric hearse. That's got to be coming soon. Electric hearse.
Yeah.
Because, they'd save so much money just on the fuel alone. I'm glad I'm not the only one who loved Big Wolf on Campus, though. That was, that was my show.
This is the last question, Hope. Describe Hope in 5 words or less.
That's kind of a hard question.
It is.
Does it have to be the next 5 words out of my mouth?
Yeah.
Damn it. I would say Scary Girl Boss would be 3.
Yeah, I said 5 words or less. That's great.
Scary Girl Boss, that's me.
That was a great addition of fan mail. Listeners, remember, if you want your questions asked, just send it to the Buffalo You Up on our Facebook or our Instagram. We're going to take a quick break. Brian Dudeman, co-host.
Erin Nicole, as always.
Guest.
Hope Muehlbauer.
And we'll be back with more listening to the Buffalo Podcast. And we're back. You're listening to the Buffalo Podcast. My name is Brian Dudeman. My co-host, as always, is...
Oh, yes. Erin Nicole, I'm up, dude, man. How are you?
Doing good. Hope, you still up?
I'm up.
Nice. Ari, next segment, please.
So, our next segment we like to call Plug Yourself. This is where we ask our guest, where can we find you anywhere abouts? So, what films might we be able to see on DVD or streaming online? Do you have anything on an Instagram or a Facebook we can check out? Where in the world is Hope Muehlbauer?
I'm most active on Instagram. My username is scarygirlboss on Instagram. Then I also have, thank you. I also have my most recent films on a YouTube channel called Films from the Lagoon. That's kind of like my, what I've grown up to make. I used to make things under Hopeless Pictures when I was a teenager. That's still on YouTube somewhere. But yeah, I'm also on IMDb, Hope Muehlbauer. And then next month at Greg Lamberson's Amazing Fantasy Fest, Jane and the Brain will be premiering. And then we also have Slasher Days of Summer premiering, which I was assistant director on. Yeah, so that's the most up-to-date update on me.
That sounds super exciting. I am extremely excited for this year's first annual Amazing Fantasy Fest, and I look forward to seeing you and your films there.
Absolutely, you too.
All right, well, that's going to do it for that segment of Plug Yourself. Now we're going to jump right into a hero's journey. So this is where I ask, where'd you get your start? Like, how'd you start to where you are now? Let's see what else. And yeah, anything that you've learned through the years and any advice you'd give to past Hope.
I was very young when I knew that I wanted to make movies. My parents are super into horror movies. They would go to horror conventions all the time. I think I went to my first horror hound convention when I was 12. And then I was also super obsessed with The Walking Dead. And that led me to make my first short film called Zombie Kids, which Paul McGinnis would say that he's a hopester, which means that I think he was around when in my Zombie Kids era. But I made that. That also showed at Greg Lamberson's festival then. And that's how I met Greg. I made Zombie Kids. Some people have the DVD to that. That's like vintage. And then I went on to make a feature film when I was 16 in high school. A lot of my friends in high school were mad at me because I could never hang out, but I said, hey, I'm making a movie. I would call it an anti-bullying slasher film. It's called I Dare You to Open Your Eyes. I co-wrote that with my dad, who, like I said, is very passionate about horror films. And I directed that. I learned that I loved directing then. And I think looking back on it now, I wasn't very proud in that moment because I was kind of embarrassed that the sound wasn't that good. It didn't look that good. But I guess I would tell past Hope then that you're going to grow to love that movie, even if you don't want to watch it ever again. I'm really proud that I was able to make a feature at that age. And people still tell me how they cried and how good it was, even if at the time I thought it was terrible. And then Greg Lamberson gave me the chance to be a production assistant on his film Widow's Point. I feel very lucky to have worked on that because my first position on a crew was paid, and not a lot of people have that experience. So that was amazing. It was a set big enough where you don't know everyone, which was kind of crazy. There were so many people that I didn't even introduce myself to. And then a couple years later, I worked on Guns of Eden, another Greg movie, where I was second assistant director. That was the most responsibility I'd gotten at that age. I think I was 21 at the time. That's also where I met my boyfriend, Alex. And we've made everything together since then. We made a short called Lydia's Fall in 2022, and that was a pretty lighthearted horror comedy slasher, super colorful. That was mainly because Alex was behind the camera. It looked so great. And then we went on to both be on the crew for Slasher Days of Summer. He was the camera operator, and then I was assistant director on that. Then most recently we made Jane and the Brain, and we will be working on Greg Lamberson's Frenzy Moon this year. So I think that takes us to now.
I saw the Brain that Ashley did.
Yes.
That looked incredible. Do you have it with you?
Of course. I don't leave the house without him. I call him him. He is a character in the movie just as much as are real actors. So I'm going to unveil it. It's very gross.
That's sick.
Yeah, he has the stem and everything. And he has a little bow on his jar. So
Ashley did that. How long did it take for her to, and like, what was the pitch?
if you know who Al Warren is, he is the one who told me about Ashley. He told me, I actually met Al on Unbelievable. And he recommended me Ashley, and I looked up her Facebook and saw all of her work, and she does incredible work. So I messaged her asking if she can make me a realistic brain in a jar, and she was super enthusiastic about it, and we had a phone call, and she totally got where I was going with it. She had read the script and loved it as well. And she was, I believe she was still in school at the time. She went to like Tom Savini's school in Pittsburgh, and she used like their materials for it. And she would send me like update videos and like sped up videos of her making the brain, and she sculpted it all by hand and then like filled the mold and painted it and everything. And her mom actually dropped it off at my work. Not in a bag or anything. She just gave me this brain in a jar at my work.
What do your coworkers think?
They thought it was, I just left it in the office, actually. Some people didn't even say anything because they knew what I was doing. But yeah, some of my coworkers thought it was cool. Some of them didn't. But yeah, Ashley is fantastic. Yeah, she's in charge of a character. She's in charge of the brain in Jane and the Brain. I actually put that on the poster. Brain by Ashley Felser.
That's going to do it for Hero's Journey. We're going to take a quick break. We will be back with more. You're listening to the Buffalo Podcast. My name is Brian Dudeman. My co-host, as always,
Erin Nicole.
And my guest for this week,
Hope Muehlbauer.
And we're going to take a quick break. We'll be back with more. And we're back. This is the last segment of Buffalo Podcast. My name is Brian Dudeman, my co-host.
Yes. Erin Nicole is up and listening. You up, dude man?
Always up, always ready to podcast. Hope, you up?
I'm up.
Nice. So this is called Final Thoughts. This is where we ask, how'd you like to be on the podcast? Any advice you would have for future guests? And yeah, final thoughts.
I've had a blast so far. Any advice to other people? I'd say just be ready to talk about yourself and think about every experience you've ever had and be ready to talk about it. Be ready for off-the-cuff questions.
Like anything that's just up the top of my head, I would just ask and then be like, go! That's my energy. I'm really good at like just
be on your toes, I guess.
So this is where we ask any questions that you have for either Ari or myself.
I do. I have a good one for both of you that I'd like you to marinate with. What would be like your Mount Rushmore of movies? Not necessarily that you think are the best movies, but that you think are the most special to you as an individual.
While we're doing that, Hope, why don't you answer your own question right now?
Okay.
What are 4 films that are your favorite, your Mount Rushmore? So it gives Aaron and me some more time to think.
One would be the live-action Scooby-Doo from 2002.
Oh, I love that one.
That movie has aged so well. It's still so funny watching it as an adult. I watched it like 5 times a day when I was a kid.
I have the DVD.
Yeah, there was like games on the DVD too.
Never know that. No, I know.
Put it in. Yeah, put it in and play some games. There's like a claw machine game.
That's awesome.
I would also pick Titanic because I've recently discovered, thanks to my boyfriend, that I love James Cameron. And he's not a director that I would have thought that I loved like all of his movies, but Titanic changed my life. I would also say The House of the Devil, which is a Ty West movie. That's like the one that I need to watch annually to remind myself that I want to make horror movies for the rest of my life. So that was very important to me. And then lastly, I think I would say Coraline, because a lot of people, I think, just need to accept that that is an animated horror film for children, and that rocks.
My all-time favorite, I love the movie Clue. You got to watch it with all 3 endings. It's the only way to really watch it.
There's different endings for that.
Yeah, I have the DVD, so like you could choose. There's 2 ways to choose how to watch it, with one ending at random or all 3 endings. You just watch all 3 endings, because literally there is one that makes more sense than the other 2. But yeah, that's like just the dialogue in that film, and a lot of the like the deadpan jokes. Where, for one, Wadsworth comes up to Professor Plum and says, "You once specialized in working with deranged lunatics suffering from delusions of grandeur." And Plum responds. So Plum responds to that, "Yes, and now I work for the United Nations." And Wadsworth says flatly, "So your work has not changed." And then just goes on. And that is one of my favorite jokes, because it's one that definitely deserves a laugh, but when it's delivered, it's just so straight and just so like literal. I love it so much. Inception is still on that list. That's a movie that I can watch over and over and always gives me more to think about. I've recently become like reacquainted and appreciative of The Prestige, as I was a child magician. So when I was like 9, 10, 11, I did a lot of magic tricks, like sleight of hand, card tricks. I remember we had a Halloween party in my middle school, and I came as a magician, and there was another teacher who wasn't even my teacher, was so inspired that she gave me this like thick textbook of all about magic tricks, and it was a $120 textbook, and she just gave it to me.
Oh, wow.
Because she just loved my magic act so much. I unfortunately lost that and all of my magic supplies in one of the many moves I was forced to go through as a young child. And after losing everything, it was hard for me to pick back up, but The Prestige has given me just a little bit of inspiration. And then my final one would definitely be, and it's a movie that's not easy for me to watch because I personally don't like a lot of gore. Only when it makes sense with the storyline, and Identity is quite gory, but not over the top in the sense that it has a really solid plot. I love the development of it and the way that it's like the way that they'll break from the one scene and the one type of reality to show like the real reality and then to go back to it. It just is really well done. But I can't watch it unless like I'm like actually mentally prepared for that. And sometimes, yes, I do cover my eyes for the gore. You can laugh at me all you want. I laugh at myself all the time. So I thought that was a really good question.
Because we're talking about horror a lot this episode because that's your favorite, I'm going to start with that one. So my favorite horror movie, these are going to be all different genres because you said Mount Rushmore, so I want each movie to kind of be its own genre and what's my favorite of that genre. So I have to defend this one only because it's so popular, so based. So like if you ask anyone what a horror movie is, there's only 2 answers usually for slasher that you'll get. So that's why I have to defend this one. Nightmare on Elm Street is my favorite horror movie of all time because I love just like dark comedy, which is going to be my number 1 movie. Spoiler. When I say what my number 1 movie is, it will explain why. But I like Freddy's the only one. Terrifier is another one where like they torment the victims, which is just like another depth of just like the horror aspect, which I love. Same with Scream, but I think A Nightmare on Elm Street probably did the best. And there's just so many different things that are like in the film, like with the practical effects that Wes did, and there's just so much lore and backstory, and just it's not just some movie that I think you can watch and just be like, oh, okay, I get it. Like, I mean, if you rewatch it 100 times, you'll always pick up on something new. So that's why I have to defend it. The favorite cartoon kids movie that I grew up watching, Powerpuff Girls. That's my
answer.
Yeah, thank you. Favorite comedy of all time, Jay and Silent Bob Strikes Back. I have never watched a movie that made me laugh more times. Not a second goes by I don't laugh at one of the jokes. And then my favorite movie of all time, which I said last week, and I'll say it until I die, it would be Heathers. That's just my favorite movie of all time. Just, again, dark comedy.
Yeah, that's a great one.
I don't think that there's been a film that the dialogue is quotable. People say Mean Girls, but I'm like, no, Heathers has that beat 1,000 times. So that's my Mount Rushmore. Great question. That took a long time.
You guys had good thought out answers.
Hope, tell me something about the world that makes you happy.
Ooh, movies.
Nice. That's a great way to end it. Okay, well, this has been the Buffalo Podcast. My name is Brian Dudeman, co-host.
Ari Nicole, as always.
Guest this week.
Hope Muehlbauer.
And we just have one question for you, Buffalo. You
You
up?
up. Okay, I'm going under Harold. There we go. There she is.